Hey everybody, welcome back to Vortex Gallery TO interviews. I'm here with the Suite of History. I've got three of our tournament organizers for Soulcalibur 6 coming at you this year, Vortex Gallery at Evo. I'm Shib once again. And here I have Sabin. Say hi.
Hello.
And how you doing, Sabin?
Doing okay. Just
Okay.
got off, a long day of work, but happy to be here with Vortex Gallery.
Yeah, absolutely. And I got Big Papa Chunk over here. How you doing?
Not bad. I just finished up with my work. Sorry. Just got finished up with my work, and I'm technically unemployed for 2 months because yay, teacher life.
I
But,
hear
I'm
you.
doing great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotta love teachers. And Chapter, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. Just glad to be here to discuss the suite of history with everyone, and thanks again to Vortex Gallery for putting this on.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we are, I guess, doing it a little differently with this particular interview because you guys are doing what is collectively referred to as the Suite of History, which is kind of a big presentation for Soulcalibur 6 at EVO this year. It includes a side tournament, it includes merch, it includes a couple of other things. I just want to give you guys the opportunity to tell me, like, what are you guys doing this year? What's up with that?
I mean, frankly, the suite of history is a collaborative effort for essentially the entirety of the U.S. Soul Calibur scene. Myself here in the Pacific Northwest, Sabin out there in New York, and Big Papa Chunk representing the Nord Caliber and essentially the Soul Calibur area being SoCal in this particular instance.
Mm-hmm.
So rather than any one of us attempt to take on and reinvent the wheel ourselves, we instead decided to come together as a TO Megazord in order to basically handle the Soul Calibur 6 side tourney for Evo so that we can all be involved. We all have our various parts we've played in the national scene, and it just made the most sense.
Okay. And what are all the moving parts there? So you mentioned the side tournament. I know you guys have a couple of other things in store. Who can tell me, like, what's the rest of it?
Yeah. I'll just mention that this originally started as us wanting to do a side tournament, but, in addition, Evo being what it is, it's like a conglomeration of pretty much every fighting game you could come up with all the ones that we have as side tournaments and the main game. So, you also have the salty sweet concept that we wanted to provide something like that for the community and get, a lot of casual slash other types of tournaments going as, in addition to the side tournament, give all the Soul Calibur players a place to go during the downtime and just hang out.
I love that. I think that's a really interesting part of our community is that we open up spaces just for people who are have a shared interest in a particular game, a particular scene, just to see what are people up to. Just get some downtime to chill. It is a very long weekend after all. Okay, so that's really cool. I guess you've already kind of told me everyone's individual kind of role. I know a couple of you already, but I do want to mention like let's talk a little bit about how you got here, particularly with Soul Calibur making a big showing at an offline event, like the wave of offline events that are coming in now. Evo, welcoming so many games through Vortex and the 9 main stage games. Like, what have you guys been doing this whole time? Like, what are you guys excited to do now? Right? Like, I don't know. Sabin, I guess you're in a unique position to talk about this because you've been doing a lot of stuff during the pandemic. Like, where are we at right now with Soul Calibur?
Well, I've been doing a lot of online stuff, but like I think we've all been doing a lot of different sort of categories of things, and I'll let Chapter and Chunk talk about those.
Yeah,
but
please.
just for me, like since we since the pandemic started, and local tournaments at Next Level Arcade, which is our sort of like one of the biggest New York scenes for pretty much every fighting game. Before the pandemic, we Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat and Dragon Ball Fighters, etc. Soul Calibur was there every week, just tearing it up, and that stopped. So we said, okay, well, what if we did an online tournament? And I think everybody knows about Next Level NLBC. That Spooky ran a bunch of tournaments for a lot of the games that were represented at Next Level beforehand, and also then games that came out after 2020. And Soul Calibur was one that we just sort of took over early on to just make a make an online scene for it. And there's quite a few others, like of course Chunk is here, handling pretty much the equivalent situation over with Wednesday Night Fights in California. But yeah, and then the netcode for Soulcalibur has never been particularly good, and we all know it. And that's not news to anyone. Put it mildly. Yeah. So the Marvel 3 scene started doing cloud-hosted Parsec tournaments and various other events. Like, I don't remember exactly, but it was that summer of 2020 when that started happening.
Yep. Yeah,
like,
just about.
Yeah, right. It was just about then, and that as a replacement for the netcode. And as soon as that happened, I was like, aha, this is my day job. So I started looking into that for the NY Caliber events online, and I switched over to that. And then I thought, okay, well, if we can get something reasonably equidistant from everyone, then it should be good enough that we can at least do like North America. And that turned into a couple of events that I hosted in 2020 and 2021, Deus Ex Kylo.
Yep.
So that stuff, I feel really good about how those went. The intention was to try and like put on a major level yet still online production with certain like things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
Having all of the video production, the stream production, and having players from all over North America, and having a ways for you to actually watch games in progress. That's something that I always missed about your standard offline things. With online, you can only see whatever game the TO decides to stream.
Yeah.
So I built a little web app that lets you watch anyone that's playing currently on any of the virtual machines. So that fills in a little bit of a hole that I felt needed. And then the other thing that we did way back at that time was the Soulcalibur Without Borders, to try and get each region. This was before the community had adopted Parsec. We tried to get each region to have their own tournament as sort of like a replacement for the big multinational event that was EVO. And everybody knows how 2020 went with both with the pandemic and all of the EVO stuff that happened.
Yeah.
So that was another thing that I did a lot of work for alongside a lot of other folks from the community.
Literally worldwide.
Yeah.
Worldwide.
We hit basically every continent except maybe Africa. It was all across the globe, so that was a lot of fun. So it's been mostly online stuff for me since the pandemic started, and done okay. Like recently, I will say though, I want to turn it over to Chunk, because I just want to point out, like, running a weekly tournament for like a year is incredibly stressful.
Oh, yeah.
Between me and Arturo, who's been helping stream these tournaments that I run, we decided to switch to monthly. Chunk, on the other hand, has been running Wednesday Night Fights weekly almost continuously since 2020. So.
Well, I have the benefit of I'm only running this tournament and only this tournament once a week. I'm not like Arturo, who's on the freaking grind, because as we all know, streaming is a blow up.
NYC Furby.
Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, no, once we had to move to offline, which was really unfortunate, because before the pandemic, my Soulcalibur scheme, we kind of switched out of sort of Wednesday Night Fights because it was an awkward time meeting on Wednesdays for a lot of our group, because we're all old dudes.
Yeah.
And we have bedtimes. So we switched to we were trying some stuff on Fridays, and even some Saturdays for a little bit. And then we decided, like, you know what, we should go back and actually hang out with the actual FGC in our area. So we tried to switch back into Wednesday Night Fights, and the last one we were able to attend was the final Wednesday Night Fights, technically ever, in ESA Oakland, because then that's when the COVID restrictions hit and everything shut down. And then a couple months into the pandemic, unfortunately, ESA had to close their locations both in Oakland and Santa Ana. And so that's we're still kind of in limbo exactly what's going to be happening with Wednesday Night Fights going on there. But we moved to online. We were running some netcode tournaments, and it worked okay for a bit, having a couple issues, but we did the best we could. And then yeah, we figured out from the Marvel scene, we got the parsec and the cloud hosting, and that helped to really reinvigorate I think the scene entirety, because now all of a sudden there were no restrictions required, and I could like there were a couple PNW players who had some weird connections for whatever reasons, because West Coast infrastructures,
Oh yeah.
it is what it is. And so all of a sudden, all these players, they could come out and they could play again, and we could get more players from the East Coast, and it turned Wednesday night fights turned into just this kind of small, isolated netcode local to, I mean, literally spans the entire North Coast, or North America.
I hear you.
I have Zephyrkine and Incendiate fighting in grand finals literally almost every week. X mirrors are getting kind of a staple of my life at this point, but it's whatever. He plays Geralt now, so that helps. It's the parsec and the online tournaments. They helped a lot, and they did a lot to reinvigorate, keep people alive, and keep our scene growing and going. But now that things are starting to move along, vaccines are coming out, they're starting to work it. The pandemic's slowly starting to move along, and we can get kind of more offline. I'm really hoping we can push forward and go through these things. And like Chapter has done before with bonus round up in the Pacific Northwest, is we've proven we can do this properly. We follow the right rules, and you do everything and run it correctly. Then we can have a safe, we can have a really good fun tournament. And believe me, Chapter runs the most fun tournaments. Oh my goodness.
Chapter,
Yeah.
let me hear it then. Talk to me.
Well, I mean, essentially, I had started out just even trying to find a scene for Soulcalibur in the Pacific Northwest. When I had first moved to Oregon, I had asked this tiny city I'd moved to named Eugene, who wanted to be serious about their FGC title, and the only people who really responded were two local Soulcalibur players. And at that time, those two in Eugene and two others in Portland represented the entirety of Oregon. So I sent out an all-call across various Discords looking for anyone in Washington and other states if they wanted to get together and essentially have a labbing event so that people could learn Soulcalibur together. And it essentially led to the reinvigoration. I can't take credit for the creation of it, of the Pacific Northwest Soulcalibur scene. And we had, a lot of players from older titles come out, like Zigmover 21, Cam, and then some newcomers as well, like who now known as Toothpaste, Rip City Outlaw. And while we've held on to a majority of the scene, it was essentially just me putting together a once-a-month event. Everyone gets together. I made it as free as I could and as open as I could, depending on space limitations. And everyone just grinded. And I used my background from being a coach for roller derby to help put them through drills. I made them all very upset with first to 100 death matches. And getting them, since we didn't have, like, say, a lively scene like B-More does, shout out to Boom, where if you get hit, you can have your friend behind them screaming like a nuclear explosion went off. I would do things like put noise-canceling headphones on their head and play noisecore or something horrible in order to simulate just being completely frustrated at whatever was going on. And just me throwing whatever I could against the wall to torture these poor guys, but at least I paid for it. And, it became some solid competitors here. And essentially, from there, I just started doing TO stuff and trying to come up with other ideas. I've seen how majors are run and the work that takes into it, and some of that stuff is just not what I want to do. So I wanted to run more small batch events that I felt were quality, but were within the scope of where someone like myself, who needs to be in control as much as humanly possible, could do so. And by keeping it small, the amount of people working on it were also small, and therefore I could still essentially work on everything. And the culmination of that was our Secret Boss Santa event this past December in Seattle, where I had flew in a secret player to serve as a boss at the end of it, which ended up being Boom, once again from Baltimore. Though we had talked to Skill first from France, but unfortunately at that time he had given up the ghost for Guilty Gear Strive and was focusing on winning with Soul Bad Guy at that time. So as far as the events are concerned, I always tried to make sure that they were community focused and player focused. Good food, the ability to get together and organize for everyone to come together rather than end up at a major and just hope to God you're within the correct social circles or the correct time and fluctuation convergence of the stars to where you can all get together, instead making it part of the event for both a pre-party and an after-party. So while it was a 2-day event, it was essentially a 1-day tournament, but the second day was the entire scene gets together. They have good food. They play some salty runbacks that get recorded, but essentially it's a gathering, almost like your local would be, except for it's just everyone who never gets to see each other, and
Yeah.
it worked out pretty well.
I think that's a really good theme of just kind of things in general. As things come to offline, everyone's just kind of looking to make the most of the opportunity, like not just to like die in bracket, but just to like see each other again, just to hang out, just to have that space again. So I think that's a really good aspiration with events. I really appreciate that perspective.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a big point about the socialization that needs to occur even after all this happens. I mean, people that have been to majors their whole life after the pandemic have found them to be a little more cognizant of the fact of, I have to choose carefully who I want to hang out with and the
mhm.
time, and there's more hesitancy. And I think by incorporating the socialization as part of the event, and you found that not only does it relax people easier, but whenever you have folks that are in charge of the event that are also organizing it and making it as accessible as possible, either by keeping it low entry by getting money from sponsors or something like that, or making it more inclusive, you will find that a lot of that alleviation occurs.
Yeah, yeah, I totally appreciate that sentiment. I think that's really awesome. I do want to, I guess, pivot from there to competition in Soulcalibur right now. I'm not sure what offline of results have been looking like lately for Soulcalibur. I'm not really sure what you guys expect in terms of new versus old players, or how the pandemic might shape what people can expect to see offline. But I guess like your long view of this as we are in the lead up to Vortex, like what do you guys expect to see? What do you think the players are looking like right now? Give me an idea. What can people expect?
Well, I think at this point we passed it over to Sabin because right now his players have been the most dominant.
Go ahead.
So, uh, before even the pandemic and all of the stuff I talked about earlier with hosting tournaments, I was sponsoring a small group of really talented folks. Like, the New York scene has a whole bunch of really talented players. I sponsored a few of them who, going to majors is very expensive, and it pained me to see that it could be like impossible for some of them to make it out to show off their skills. So I, decided, okay, well, I have many credit card points. I can buy a few hotel rooms or airplane tickets to augment that. So on my roster of sponsored players, there is of course Incendiate, who has been keeping the grind alive for all the tournaments that we're running, for NY Caliber Online Edition monthly, for Wednesday Night Fights weekly, and if he's not in top 3 at least, then there's something going on. There's something wrong. That's pretty consistent. He has been grinding like crazy, and his offline results also speak to that. In the our most recent, in fact, I think the biggest major we've had since the pandemic started, at Combo Breaker a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
He came in second to Boom. Boom. If Boom enters a tournament, there's a very high chance that he will dominated, and of course we saw that at Combo Breaker, but it could be really anywhere. It's like he's one of those fairly old school yet still young enough to have young man reactions, just like he can dominate. And then depending on who shows up, that's really the question. Linkors, of course, has the capacity to come in and win things, even though he's been spending the past year or so studying. He's, in college now. He's working on that, and maybe hasn't been playing as much. Zephikai, of course, is one of the best players up there, of course, with Incendiate, as Chunk mentioned earlier, constantly in grand finals of Wednesday Night Fights every week. There are plenty of other online players that I think could easily hit that top 8 if they make it out. Folks like Yoshimitsu 6, really dominant. And Pheromontris, another like online starter. Then there's like everyone from Maryland. I'll give them the most shout outs. Obviously, Boom has raised a crop of fantastic players. Him, of course, he's like the ringleader, and everyone in that scene, Xander and all of those folks. They could come out and do a lot of damage. Everyone in the PNW scene, Toothpaste, of course, I think has a very high chance of being in any given top 8 for this game. Rip City Outlaw, also. These are the folks that I expect to come and do a lot of damage.
Okay. Yeah, I hear you.
We're hoping for like a couple more of the others. I mean, like Party Wolf has always been a big staple for this game. He went to the We Play offline in Poland,
Ukraine,
yeah. Right? It's been a while though. And again, he had pretty good placement there as well. So we're hoping if he can make it to bring him out. Another one that we haven't seen for a while, Blue God, who was absolutely dominating almost every single tournament he went to for the first half of their game's lifespan. And then when we had to go to online only, he kind of sort of took a break, sort of similar to what Linkors and a couple other players did. But we're interested to see. I mean, he's getting back into it because he knows for Evo, he's actually kind of helping us organize a little bit of this event as well. So really interested to see where he can come back to. Again, a couple of my other NorCal players, Manta has been playing this game since he was literally born. I'm pretty sure he was labbing Voldo Mantis technique literally in the womb. But so I mean, he's always kind of a wild card to sort of see where he'll come out. Ben with V is also in SoCal as well. Hopefully he can come out and show some people a thing or two as well. And there's a lot of names, a lot of people. We're still kind of unsure of a little bit of the outside audience outside of North America. Because again, there's a lot of big players. Yutoto, Rurika from Korea, Skill, Dexis is an upper newcomer from England. The French Nightmare player, what's his name? Kiev. There's so many names. There's so many big names, and we haven't seen them for a long time. That they're just kind of they're all in my head, but I sort of forget. But it's sort of just depends on who's able to make it out and who can show up, because there's just so many really interesting, really good players that we're hoping to get the word out to let them know that it's Soulcalibur is gonna be out here and it's gonna be worth it to come out and play, because it's gonna be more than just run a bracket, finish it up, and then kind of pack it up and go home or sit in your hotel room. That there's gonna be a lot more to go on. So there's a lot more reason to come out here than to just show up for this bracket and hope you win, sort of deal.
All right, I really like that effort. I think that's really great. I think it sets a little bit of a counter expectation to what people kind of think of Evo. Like, oh, like a Evo, that's it. If you want to hang out with your homies, you go somewhere else. Evo's for competition or whatever. It's like, well, it doesn't have to be that way, and it certainly doesn't make sense at this point in time. With all the reunions that people are looking forward to. So again, guys, thank you so much for your time. That was Suite of History. Soulcalibur 6 is going to be with us at Vortex Gallery, so sign up. It's going to be start.gg/Vortex Gallery. More information at vortexgallery.moe. I will be linking to everything you guys are doing in the description of this video. So thank you guys once again, and closing thoughts, any last minutes goodbyes?
The game's not dead until we say it is.
Yeah,
damn right.
I want to echo that. Like, we got a lot of people that still really love this game, and we're gonna keep it alive as long as we can, whether we got support from Bandai Namco or not.
Love it. All right, guys. Thank you. Bye bye.